higher failure rate of software projects using Agile Manifesto practice. Why? My name is Guilherme and I'm a project management expert. I help professionals to become successful project managers. How do I do that in practice? Well, it can be in several different ways, from helping them with training to develop their project management skills, helping mentoring them to also to develop their project management skills to gain confidence or to execute their projects, helping the organization, helping them to build this holistic view there. But I also help some companies with consulting, with project management to help to increase the project management maturity in those companies there. Before I start, make sure you like and share this video here so it can reach more people and more people can understand how to use Agile properly and why Agile is so important. Well, by that, you might be wondering, okay, but I'm going to talk about the higher failure rate in software projects while they're following the Agile Manifesto practice. Yes, I'm going to talk about it. You can see here in the screen that's part of an article of recently research that shows that compares see the results of the Agile Manifesto practice there, because there's an increasing concern or there's research showing an increasing concern. Mainly the research was done in the UK, in the US, that managers and top levels they're concerned that agile projects following the Agile Manifesto, some of the Agile Manifesto practice, they cannot meet the project timeline. They cannot deliver the project as expected there. And that this guy did a research with this guy here, Dr. Junaid Ali. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. He did a very interesting research with 600 software engineers, both in the US and the UK, to understand how those things are going. And he found out there's an astonishing, much higher failure rate for projects that are following the Agile Manifesto practices. So, what does it mean? First of all, what is the entire resource mean? If you have been following me for a while, you probably have heard me to say that more than once. But first of all, most of companies that they are trying to use agile, most of the leaders that they are saying, let's go for an agile transformation. First of all, they do not understand anything about project management. They do not understand anything about waterfall. They do not understand anything about the Agile Manifesto, Scrum, Kanban, Lean, or anything else. What happened in practice? Those people they are just looking for how to a magic solution, a bullet, a silver bullet that will solve all their problems. Which, first of all, that does not exist. And second of all, they want a solution for the problems, but also they do not want to change the way they are doing things. So what they do in practice, because of course they do not know, they do not have this project management holistic perspective there, which is so important to be successful in any type of project. So they look for the Agile Manifesto. They found out few stuff that match with what they are doing there, and they move forward and say now we are under an agile transformation. They start to execute projects there. What does it mean in practice? Well, if you are from Brazil or if not, there's a very funny joke that they create an entire framework as a joke for companies that they do not know how to organize it. It's called Go Horse. If you put on Google there, project management Go Horse, you're going to be able to find at least a page in English with all the jokes about Go Horse. But why I'm talking about that? Because those companies are following Go Horse. They they don't have any portfolio management initiative. They do not do proper training. They do not develop culture. They do not develop values. They do not like planning. So they just go around doing stuff and they say that's agile and they wonder why it fails. Very nice that you look for the Agile Manifesto. Then you're going to follow few items here. Let me put the Agile Manifesto here in the screen. You are going to say working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan. All those things they are very nice and they have its value in the right context there. If you just go for those items and you forget about all the 12 principles that are there in the Agile Manifesto, you forget about everything else. You forget about Scrum. You forget about the Lean philosophy that's basically where that agile evolved from the lean philosophy there, then you wonder, oh, but it's failing. Of course, it's going to fail. You really don't know what you're doing there. And that's basically the results that you see in this research. And of course, this guy here, he has a book. He is suggesting his own framework that's called impact engineering, which I do not know his framework. By the way, I haven't read his book. Nothing against that, but what he mentions also, what are the good practices that can help you uh, to increase the project success here? And those good practices are clear requirements before development starts, freedom to discuss and address problems, requirements to create the real world problems, complete specification before the problem starts. At least those top one. Again, if you have been for people working with project management for a while, that's not news. That's why the entire project management started with the idea of having a more predictive approach. Why? You have a good planning, so you understand what you're going to do before going there and doing it. But does it mean that agile is dead? No, of course not. But for any type of project, predictive or waterfall, usually for companies that have a higher maturity there, what they do, they have a portfolio initiative where they're going to select projects that, first of all, match their objectives and their strategy. And so, if they select possible ideas that match this objective strategy, what those companies do, they have what they call a feasibility phase, or a concept phase, or a discovery phase. What's intended to it's to understand if this idea, this possible project there, it's clear enough, it has enough marketing demand, the customer need is really there, the value for the value proposition really holds true in the market. You can define requirements, and in the end, you still make sure that something executable and that still match the strategy and objectives of the company. So there's a step, really a step before going for a project or going for execution for a project. And of course, I'm all those companies that a lot of those companies they skip that step, or they do it in a very poor way. So they just say, we do a concept phase or we do a feasibility phase, but they want to do it fast, so they don't know it, they don't do it properly. They don't validate the minimal viable proposition there. They do not validate their MVP. They move for a project in a more go horse style without planning, because they are saying they're following agile. Then people believe that if they follow agile, they don't need to plan, which again is not true. And they just go jumping in without the right culture, without the organization, without anything else. And what? Guess what? Those projects fail. And this is, of course, not a surprise. If you look for data from PMI Professional 2021, which I'm showing here, you can see they're already in the top five reasons why project fails: poor requirement gathering, poor upfront planning, inadequate vision on project goal. Why? Because usually those things you want to have a very good pre-work done before you initiate a project. And in different companies can be organized in very different ways, or can really in a lot of companies even there are also even different teams to execute those parts. They divide the flow of work in different ways. But why I'm talking about all those things? Because first of all, if you do not do the first step right, when you enter your project, yeah, you by chance there, you're already starting with a project that very have a very high chance to fail. And on top of that, you keep changing without clarity where you are going to go. Of course, that's not going to work. So yes, there's a lot of agile projects failing. In my perspective, it's not because the Agile Manifesto has no value, or Scrum, or Kanban, or any other XP, Extreme Programming, or any other Agile framework that you want to think about does not work. It's mainly because those companies they do not understand the full environment there, and a lot of things that when you talk about Agile, you talk about going to a sustainable piece, you talk about self-organizing teams, you talk about openness, and those companies. They do not foster those types of values. They do not foster this type of culture. They do not foster this type of philosophy in environment. So these kind of things tend to fail. So that's of course there's a challenge again. Why those companies are failing with those initiatives, and also um, what he also shows in this article. There's additional research. I'm just bringing here two pieces of the article because they say that 83% of the software engineers are reporting the feeling of burnout because they have a too high workload. Then again, if you look for the Agile Manifesto, let's go back there on the principles. Uh, what's the principle number? How is it's here? They forget about that you should go in a sustainable piece, and that's of course that's very important. What you're going to do it constant pace going indefinitely. What means sustainable development? So you should not drive your team to a burnout. This is, of course, I'm talking about agile, but that works for any type of team. If you want to succeed in your project, you cannot push your team to a burnout situation. The workload cannot go so high, and that's because you're going to fail. There's also several other stuff that will pop up when you talk about pushing your team to a very heavy workload. Lead times will increase, burnout, and other type of issues. But this is basic one that you need to understand. And then there's another one here. That's 75% of the software engineers that participate in the research. And I think in this case, he was talking about more than 300 people to have a meaningful sample here. So they were, once they report they did something wrong, maybe a mistake, something like that, they faced retaliation. Well, if you look about, let's take a look on Scrum. What are the Scrum values? Um, what are the Scrum values here? Commitment, focus, openness, respect, and courage. What kind of openness do you think you are going to foster in your team if someone says something and they face retaliation? None. Respect, you're killing it. You're of course killing it. The courage that people will have to speak up because if they speak up, they are going to be punished. That not even to mention that, for example, Scrum, that's the most used agile framework. It is based on empirical process control. What's empirical process control? Also means that you're going to do something, that you're going to try, you're going to learn with your mistakes. But if every time someone report a mistake, you punish them, so you also kill the transparency, which is not going to help you with the inspection or in your adoption. So you kill everything and of what a possible agile project can have. And then people come back and wonder, oh, but the agile does not work. Of course, does not work. You're killing first of all the leadership part. If you kill the leadership part, the way that those companies are reporting here, based on the research, if you use waterfall, that also is not going to work properly. Why? Because then you are going to have problems even in gathering the right requirements. You are going to have problems building the right team culture there. And if you do not believe me, then you can maybe you believe the PMBOK. You see that teamwork, leadership, value delivery, those are part of the project management principles following the PMBOK. Very important also, and this is valid for any type of project. Very important also. You need to have the right team culture if you want to have a high performing team, because if you have a high performing team, chances are that you can achieve a successful project. Guess what are those high performing teams items? Transparency, integrity, respect, courage, which basically you start to kill off all of them if you push your team to a burnout. You kill all those items if every time someone mentions that something is wrong, you retaliate what you're doing there. So the entire situation is nonsense. And again, what's the root cause of the situation? In my perspective, what I see a lot, people just don't know project management. They do not know agile. They do not know the Agile Manifesto. They do not know Lean. And because they do not have the systemic view, they are going to look for the Agile Manifesto there. They are going to select few items that they want to use it. Why? Because they are doing that already. Because it's very nice that you're going to look here in the Agile Manifesto. Let me go back there. And you're going to think about, so I can have changes all the time. I don't need to work in any documentation because that's how people interpret that. That does not mean that just because you are trying to do a project following Agile, you don't have any documentation. That's not the case here. And they think that also means because I'm going to learn as I do it. So I don't need to have, if I follow predictive, I don't need to have a heavy planning phase. So I don't need planning. That's why they do it. And they move to execution. And of course, very fast that becomes a mess because they are also going to say, oh, not a self organizing team. Do it whatever you want. And I've seen that. I've seen in a company a case of an agile implementation where they try to run what they called stand ups. And there's the guy that's supposed to be the product owner there. He'll just sit there because, of course, he did not understand. Say, here's the list of things. Do whatever you want. Well, what about prioritization, value prioritization? What about teamwork? How we are going to organize the planning together? This is so wrong in so many levels. Then, of course, after 3 months, you say, Agile does not work. We tried Scrum and Scrum does not work. Of course, if you do it wrong, it's not going to work. What's also important to understand here, every project is unique. Every project has its own characteristics. Every project will have its own constraints, meaning industries are different, and companies are different, teams are different, the type of project is different. Well, if you are developing an app, an application, maybe an application for whatever to order a pizza or for an online shop, it's something completely different than, for example, if you are working to build offshore wind farm. The type of risk that you have, the size of the project, the people involved, the physical risk for the teams involved there, it's a completely different level. You're not going, for example, if you're building an offshore in the North Sea, you're not going to go there without very carefully planning, having backup plans for rescuing your team and so on. Just going to say, we're going to shorten here the planning and we go there and where we are there, we figure out. Yeah, if you do that, people will die in the middle. So those types of constraints, they're quite different. And that's why you should think on tailoring. Tailoring means that agile is better than waterfall, waterfall is better of agile. No, it means that you need to understand your context, and based on your context, you are going to do something that makes sense in your context that can help the organization to deliver value. That's exactly why tailoring is also one of the project management principles because you need to understand those difference that you have of context there. And of course, for all projects, it's important that you build a a system thinking there, that you have an holistic view of the entire project, the company, and the industry. Why? Because I've just mentioned that all those difference, they are going to bring all those different types of complexity, which you cannot face based if you are trying to use the same solution for everything. There's no one size fits all. It's very important that you understand that as a project manager. And for I think for people with more experience and that have been working on with project management for a while, it's pretty clear. You have so on one side those people that they just don't know anything about project management. They take agile because it's a big training and jump into that, and they do not do anything anything following agile. They just do something more following a go horse approach. Which, by the way, if you don't do it, Google it. It's a very funny thing. Just go and check it out. And then doesn't work. And then you have the other opposite of the spectrum there. You have someone that studied the PM Box sixth edition and that think the PM Box is the holy grail there, the sixth edition at least. where you have the 10 different knowledge areas, you have 49 different processes, and they think that you need to use all those 49 processes with all those type of documentation in all projects that you executed, which again, it's wrong. If you don't believe me, I'm going to show you that's written even in the PMBOK. That's the wrong thing. Uh, Now here, this is a print screen of a piece of the PMBOK 6th edition where you have the 49 process. Where you see here, it's up to the project team and stakeholders to determine the use to use the appropriate generally recognized good practice for each project. Meaning that the PMBOK is not a methodology. The PMBOK is a standard with good practice that can help you to build a methodology, but it needs to be used in what makes sense. So the project manager, the project team, and the important stakeholders need to see that, okay, this is all the tools that we have, which one makes sense to use in different situations. Otherwise, you have the two extremes, and the two extremes they don't work. But the problem is a lot of times people they just fall in love with waterfall, or they fall in love with agile. Then you are stuck. Then what's going to happen is you're going to fail. Why? Because you have different types of problem, and you always trying to use exactly the same thing. So the path forward is not just moving and trying to use project management and thinking, okay, now Agile is going to solve it. What's going to happen? Then you have Scrum, then you have Kanban method. What happens is there's other things every day. Probably there's someone inventing a new framework or a new methodology, like this guy here. Again, nothing against his framework. I don't know anything about that. Maybe it's very valuable there. But the next solution, always looking for the next solution, will not solve your fundamental problems. Because let's assume that a company goes for the framework that he calls impact engineering there. And you take some pieces of that and you forget about all the leadership and the more soft skill items that you have in the framework, and then you don't use it. What happens? Oh, chances are that your projects are going to fail. So that's something very important to keep in mind. And of course, something that all the companies they should be aware of. Of course, as a project manager, as working with project management, every time you want that all projects will be successful. But that's not the reality. A lot of projects they fail just because of the nature of a project. If you are creating a new product, can be something very nice. The development was done everything right. Project timeline is done right. Project is the company launch a new project, but there is no market demand there, meaning that no one wants to buy the product because they don't see value on that. They don't see that something interesting on that. So what's going to happen? The project will fail, not because the project itself failed, because of the selection in portfolio there might not choose the best thing, and that's normal of any type of process. That's why you have projects failing. That's only normal part of business, of course. And here's the project management importance and how you can show also to your organization. Good project management can make a very big difference in what you do. For example, the average project performance here, and this is data from the PMI Pulso Professional 2024. The average project performance from all the resources 73.8%, meaning around 27, 26% of the projects in any organization they fail in average. So one fourth of the projects they fail. But, and here's the nice part, if you have a company that has a very good project performance, then they compare the top 25% companies in the project management performance with the bottom 25% companies, and you find out that the top performance company they are beating the bottom performance there in almost 2.5 times. the number is ridiculous high. Can you imagine the top 25% performance in average 96%, and the bottom 25 is 41%? So project management can be a huge competitive advantage for you and your company. But of course, you need to do it in a nice way. It doesn't because if you look at those numbers, you say it's nice. Let's run a project initiative, and you just jump around there. It's not going to work. If you say now jump, run everybody agile, then let's look for the Agile Manifesto. I like those ones because that means I don't need to get any organization. That does mean that I don't need to get planning, and I just mean that I just going to do stuff and then fails. Of course, that does not work. Agile, then you say you have the conclusion. Agile does not work. Or if you do Scrum, Scrum does not work. Then you have another company. Let's follow the PMBOK. I want to follow all the implement the 49 processes in all the projects that I'm going to create. That means depending on the project that you're going to create, you're going to create so much bureaucracy, so much paperwork, non-value added items that your lead time will increase, your waste will increase, your problems will increase, and your projects will also fail. Then people come and say, "Yeah, PMBOK is nonsense. This is does not have any value there." Just guess what? You can have any type of tool in the world. If you do it wrong, if you follow it in the wrong way, of course that's not going to succeed. Like if you try to build a house there, say let's make a hole in the wall to put a screw there, and then you come with a hammer, then okay, you're using the wrong tool for that. Or then you take a drill there, but you take the point of the drill there. Then you try to use it in the wall. Oh, it does not make a road, so the driller does not work. Maybe it's a very stupid example when I say like that, but that's what people do with agile. That's what people do with project management. That's what people do with waterfall. Because without this holistic approach, without this holistic view of a project, there, chances are that you're going to fail. Because yes, you need to learn. If you want to succeed in project management, you need to have a good understanding waterfall, on agile, on Scrum, on Kanban method, on Lean, on finance. But there's also a lot of the so-called soft skills that you need to have to make sure that the team performs. So you need to work on leadership, on teamwork, building the right values, fostering the right culture, to make sure that your team is collaborating well, your team is performing well, then you are going to start to be able to deliver value as a project management. And then, of course, the team members will change, so you need to adapt. The technology will change. So I've seen people saying, I like to do for some types of project, I like to do timelines with Excel. For me, it's the best one. For God's sake, Excel is not a planning tool. You can use MS Project if you want. You can use Primavera P6 if you want. You can go for Jira, Monday, Asana, Trello, or whatever other tool that you want that can provide you some decent planning and visibility for that. But Excel is not that one. So if you stick with what's happening there, you don't get updated, you don't get used there. Of course, you're going to struggle. Then you come back with this ridiculous result plus, likely a bad management because then you're pushing your team to a burnout. You're creating a bad culture in the company. Then say, yeah, project management does not have value added. And I've people told really told me that yeah things change all the time. So I see project management as more paperwork. Yeah, if things are changing all the time, then you have other type of problem. It's not project management that you're failing. But if you do not understand how you should make a decent prioritization in your portfolio, in your project, and you just keep running around for whatever direction, basically you're blaming project management because, but you to avoid that you face the situation, say, we have a challenge here. What we are doing wrong, let's look for the root cause to solve the root cause to make sure that you can get results. So in the end, waterfall, agile, Scrum, Kanban, they are tools for you as a project manager to deliver value for the organization. But first, you need to understand what value is. You need to understand the organization context. So to make sure that you select the right things into the right direction. Otherwise, you are going to face all types of issues, like this one here. A lot of project fails, saying, "Oh, the situation was better before," and you are going to face burnouts, and then you don't know what's going on there. So this study here, it's very interesting to showcase that the bad use of agile, because you have people talking about agile as a big trend there, and then of course that's why you see, hopefully that's companies are starting to understand that uh, the benefit of project management is knowing both predictive and agile. And that's why you see here in this graph the hybrid approach growing up, because you can look for all those different perspectives. You can see what's improving, what's not improving, and you start to use them. Because your focus as a project manager is to deliver value. If you are using agile to deliver value, very good. If you are using predictive to deliver value, very good. Scrum, very good. If you are mixing a bit of both, as long as it works, as long as you can deliver value, that's what's the matter. Project management is about delivering value. Don't fall in love there with a specific approach. What you need to look on is how you can deliver more value, how you can improve your project management skills, your project management procedures, your project management key performance indicators, your project management way of work to deliver more value. And of course, to improve all those things, it will go for all the areas that I already mentioning. You can learn the different approach, you can see learn different tools, you can see how it works in practice, you can see which kind of those items can add more value for you, and with that, you are going to have new ideas and how you can improve your project management maturity, and how you can make sure you can deliver more value with project management there, because that's what you want in the end. You don't want in the end to use any type of approach. Companies, they only do project management because that's a way that can support, that's a mean to an end, meaning that they are using project management to deliver value in the end. So not they are not using project management to use waterfall or to use agile. They are using project management because they want value in the end. Once you understand the value and once you understand this holistic view, then you can start to work to deliver more value for your organization. Again, don't forget here to like and share this video so more people can understand agile, its importance, and make sure that we stop this discussion agile versus waterfall, and people start to understand that project management is about value delivery. So to make sure that you deliver value in all those different situations, you need to have a holistic view. Also, don't forget to follow me for more content. Every week there's more content on my YouTube channel. Also, every week, every day, there's more content on my Instagram. On my Instagram, I also have a Q&A box where you can ask questions. And if you have any type of project management questions there, feel free to reach out, because if your goal is to develop your project management skills, my goal is to support you into that journey. Thank you and see you around. Bye.